Okay, I think you can go, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Good evening. The May 10th, 2021 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting is called to order at it's 5:31 p.m. We'll do a roll call of board members present. I'm Mark Everett, present. Kate Grandusky.
Present.
Brad Bafero.
I'm here.
Narce Rodriguez.
Present.
Valerie Ingram.
Here.
And I believe Miley Vernon isn't with us this evening, our student rep. So she's not with us this evening. The school board will hear public comment for unscheduled public appearance received through the designated email address, which is publiccomment@fgsd.k12.or.us and is on the district website. Comments will be read by district staff at the appropriate time on the agenda and will be limited to 3 minutes. Okay. This time, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Let's see, introductions of audience and staff. If we never know how to do this with everybody just at the top there, so I don't know. Maybe we start with Joelle. I can see Joelle.
Hi, I'm Joelle Rickard, English Language Development Facilitator and Coach at Tomahawk Upper Elementary School.
Thanks. And Osvaldo.
Good evening, everybody. Osvaldo Garcia Contreras. I'm the District Coordinator of Equity, ELL, and Migrant Services.
Thank you. And Gwen.
Good evening, I'm Gwen Torson. I'm one of the 2 school counselors at Tom McCall Upper Elementary, and I also serve on our District Equity Planning Committee.
Okay, thanks. Mr. O'Neill, John.
John O'Neill, Assistant Superintendent and Interim Principal at Tom McCall this year.
Okay, Kevin.
Kevin Reen, Director of Human Resources.
And Eileen.
Eileen Clute, Business and Operations.
David.
David Warner, Communications.
And let's see who else. Cassie.
Hi, Cassie Kenny, District Coordinator of Behavioral Health and Wellness.
And Enrique.
Enrique Piñon, IT Manager.
And I think Mark.
Mark Hughes, Facilities Manager.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. I think
we left Kim out.
There's one more, Kim.
That's okay. Kim Scherer, Director of Student Services.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. All right. Okay, let me get to the agenda here. All right. Approval of tonight's agenda is the next item. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move that we approve tonight's agenda as written.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. We'll do a roll call vote. I'm a yes. Val?
Yes.
Narce?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
Okay. We won't have a student rep report this evening because Miley's gone. So I think the next portion of the agenda is, well, it's correspondence and celebrations, calendar notes, recognition. Mr. Parker, I'll just turn it over to you for this part.
Thank you. This week, we're out in the building in the morning to celebrate all of our staff members. It's kind of teacher, classified staff, all staff appreciation week. We're going to be out at Dilly, Fernhill, Cornelius, Echo Shaw were visited today. We served coffee and treats, and it was just great to get out and say hi to everybody. We sent out a schedule, I think over the weekend actually, but if you can make it, great. We're going to be out serving. You know, this last year has been an extremely long and challenging one. So it was great to get out and see folks, to say hello and share some conversation and a coffee. Again, we're appreciative of all our staff and all the things they've done this year to make it happen. It's been a challenging year to say the least. So again, we'll be out this week celebrating. Long range facility planning, we're going to have our first of 2 community meetings this Wednesday for long range facility plans. They'll start at 6 p.m. May 12th and May 18th. And if you go to the front of our webpage, you'll be able to find the link to get into those sessions. It's important that we created a plan in 2017. Some things have changed, so we're updating that plan, and we just want to make sure we get good community feedback to make sure they're still applicable. And then last, just a reminder that this year we decided as a district to provide parents the opportunity to access SBAC state testing on Wednesday, May 26th. We sent out a parent survey with a deadline to reply, and total out of our district, 47 parents have told us they want their kids to still be tested. So we're putting that into place. We're providing Midco, the names of the students, and we'll be participating. They're in the process of creating the bus routes. We'll be doing the testing at the district office in the Grove Room, and Brigitte Martel, our district assessment coordinator, along with Marianne Guerra, the high school assessment coordinator, will be proctoring these exams in 2 sessions. One in the AM for grades 3 through 4, and one in the PM for grades 5 through 8 and 11. Our district will fully participate in the state assessments next year, and we will administer our local district benchmarks at the beginning of the year to make sure we know where students are at. So that's kind of where we're going with SBAC testing. The last thing today I just wanted to mention, I didn't write it up because it just happened before this meeting, which was Cassie and Allison Samuel, as one of our parents, and myself testified in front of the Senate Education Committee to talk about House Bill 3254, which in the shortest explanation possible, there was a change in the way that they interpreted the law, and they were thinking about unfunding our Oak Grove Academy. And so that's what this bill does, is it makes sure that we continue to fund that program. And so far things look really well. Cassie, do you have any just quick thoughts on kind of today?
I think today went really well. We have a senator that's already asked to take it to the floor when it does go to the Senate floor for a vote. This conversation around this bill has been a long time coming, and I just also want to recognize Dave for his support in this and having the kind of foresight to take this and to draft legislation and to help get it to the House and the Senate committees in Oregon. That's not something that I think was on our mind, but I think it's going to make it possible for continued funding for Oak Grove, which we really appreciate.
We'll know it passed the House unanimously. We'll see kind of what it passes this committee out of, but I believe we're going to get some strong support. We'll let you know. We've got one more. The big vote is the full Senate, and then we'll kind of know, but we'll let people, when it comes up, we'll let you know. We're close though. And that's it for superintendent comments. I'll save the rest for the update on the return to school.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So next item is unscheduled public appearance. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. Public comments should be submitted through the designated email address and will be read by district staff. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as is the protocol during in-person board meetings. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel is not allowed at this time. Are there any comments that have been received?
Yes, we have 2.
Okay.
Number one, dear Forest Grove School Board members, I am writing to provide public comment to the Forest Grove School Board. I understand that the renewal of the school resource officer contract is currently under consideration by the superintendent and the board. I advocate that the Forest Grove School District not renew the contract for the school resource officer. I am a parent with children in the school district, and I am also a public health and disability researcher. Because I am a parent, I want very much for my children and all children to be safe in our schools. Because I am a researcher, I believe that decisions should be informed by data. In my fields of public health and disability studies, I am very focused on the equity of our schools to serve all children, including BIPOC children and children with disabilities. Overall, research on police officers in schools has not shown that school resource officers reduce violence in schools, and there is no evidence that school resource officers prevent mass shootings. However, research has shown a number of other consequences of school resource officers in schools. Having police in schools can increase student involvement with the criminal justice system for low-level offenses. Also, student experiences with school resource officers vary by race. Students of color perceive fewer benefits from having school resource officers in schools and can feel targeted and vulnerable due to their presence. There are also concerns related to members of the criminal justice system responding to students in school who have mental health disabilities or other disabilities, especially when the school resource officer may not have all of the information about student disability status when interacting with students. I strongly believe that keeping our kids safe in schools means strong support for student mental health. I know that funds are limited within our school district and that we always wish that we could provide more services. I believe that this is an opportunity to better use funds. The money spent on the school resource officer program could be better contributed to counselors and programs that support the mental health of all students in the school. Thank you for your service to our community. I appreciate your commitment to the education and well-being of the children in the Forest Grove School District. Best regards, Jana Peterson Bessie. Number two, I'm writing in regards to the position of the school resource officer at Forest Grove High School. It's time to re-examine and reimagine the school resource officer position. This reimagining could occur in several different ways. Since the amount of money budgeted for the SRO position is commensurate with the expense of hiring a full-time school counselor, one reimagining could be spending our $84,000 on a full-time counselor who would be solely a district employee. Or perhaps this counselor could have some very basic police training and be the liaison between the school district, between the student, school, and the police when police intervention is necessary. Another way to reimagine this position would be to have this counselor attend more police training and be on staff at the police department, but the counselor/officer is only trained to make referrals to the juvenile authority and write reports of law enforcement interactions with students. In this imagining, the officer would not wear a full uniform, maybe a polo or khakis, and not wear body armor or carry a gun. He or she would be expected to be at the high school during school hours and not available to the police department for other park patrols or duties. Before the school district enters into another contract with the city of Forest Grove regarding policing at the high school and middle school, I urge you to survey the staff and students regarding their feelings around having a fully uniformed and armed police officer in their school every day. This is particularly important information to gather from staff and students of color, as well as students with physical and behavioral differences or disabilities. At this moment of time in our nation, state, and community, it would be irresponsible to proceed with the SRO status quo without first investigating the possible harm or trauma caused to students by policing in our schools and without pausing to consider other ways to achieve the goals of the SRO position in a different way. Thank you for your time, Jennifer Norman. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much.
Hey, Mark.
Yes, go ahead.
Just so you know, the surveying of staff and students began today, and so we're still on schedule to bring back to the board on the 24th the data around what our kids are saying and what our staff is saying. I'll also have the police chief, Henry Ryman, come in to present kind of the ideas around the program and all the rest of that, goals and some of those types of things. And then we'll kind of go from there, just so you know what our timeline is.
That's good information. Thanks, Dave. And I just want to say thanks again for the public comment. It's important that we receive that and hear that. So thanks very much for writing in. Okay, let's see. We're on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent items a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Okay, hearing none, we'll ask for a motion on this. Is there a motion to, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded, okay. Let's see, I'm a yes. Narcisse?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Kate?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. On to presentations, we have one this evening, which is a return to school update from Mr. Parker.
Okay. A little bit short today, but wanted to just brief you on a couple of things coming up here. First is where the virus is going in our county. The new numbers that came out just a couple hours ago is 200.8. So it's staying at that. It was at 209 last week. It's staying at 200.8. I think the more troubling number is the increase in the positivity rate, which means that, again, we still have some pretty active transmission of virus in the county. Currently, we're not planning on changing, we're up above into a new area. We're not planning on changing our current hybrid status. We are not seeing transmission within the school, and with the last Ready Schools, Safe Learners piece, what they talked about is that even though the county level may be changing, if the local county health isn't recommending it and you're not seeing spread within the school, you can continue to keep going. So we're not just flip-flopping back and forth between CDL and hybrid. So currently we're holding fast and continuing to do what we're doing. I wanted to give you just a brief update on kind of some of the summer planning. We'll have John and Angela come in on the next board meeting to kind of give some more information, some more specifics. This is emerging very quickly, but I wanted to kind of give you an update on where we're at. We've got 3 different grants. Our application for those grants went in today. So they're non-competitive, so we will get access to the money. Now it's just a matter of us filling out the details, and that's what John will kind of present the next time that we meet. Total amount of money, there's a grant amount which is coming, which is new money coming from the state, and then there's a matching portion that we have to provide from our ESSER funds. So we have included this in our thinking around the spending of the ESSER funds. The 912 is only for credit recovery. So what you'll see here is as we kind of move forward here, this is for the most part the high school, 9 through 12, and it has to be connected to credit-bearing courses. The K-8 is that amount of money is set for enrichment, and we're working with partners and you know, I'll just kind of go into what's going on about that K-8 enrichment. We've sent out a survey to all K-8 staff members to see if they're interested and willing to work with us in the summer enrichment sponsored by the state. To date, out of 135 staff members that have completed the survey, 95 reported that they're willing to work in our summer program in the summer. That was a little surprising because people are tired, but it looks like people are pretty committed to trying to find some ways to enrich the summer for kids. The positive responses represent 68 teachers, 31 classified, and 4 administrators to date. As you know, our district is able to apply for $960,000, and we have to match it with our own $320,000 that we can use ESSER for. Expenditures have to be expended between now and September 30th. So there's a very short timeline for us. But John and Angela working very hard to try and get some of the details mapped out about this. Like I said, at the next board meeting, we're going to present hopefully some more detail going on there. I will also say that we're working really hard with the city, with swimming, other cities, some swimming opportunities with other service organizations in our area. We're talking to lots of different groups and trying to get folks who want to run some summer programming, which is helping because it's going to be hard for us to be responsible for all of it. So getting some of the community partners involved in this has been helpful. The district also is going to qualify for a summer high school academic grant, which can be used for credit recovery and to support students to become on track for graduation status. To qualify this, we're going to get about $770,000, and then we'll need to provide another $250,000 from our ESSER funds for a total of about $1 million. John's working with Karen and her administrative team, putting the program into place. There is some ability we're working on because we also want to try to provide some enrichment, but we're trying to find the places in between where we can do both of those things, which is provide credit and provide some enrichment, woods and PE and some other pieces like this that'll be fun for kids. There's band camps and there's other things that we're talking about here to try and make some of that work. Lastly, we're going to be submitting a proposal for the school childcare grant, which doesn't require matching funds. This amount is about $420,000, and John and Angela are working with Champions to expand services this summer to students 5 through 12 that qualify for Title I. That's part of the grant. That's the one limiting agent in that grant. But this is a good amount of money, and it should, again, for our parents who have Title I children, this should provide some opportunities for them. So we're excited to get this going. This project's underway to expand services at Harvey Clark and Fern Hill to other sites of the district, dependent upon need. Again, more information to come on that part of it. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about some attendance. I sent to you on Friday kind of the breakouts of actual kids in classrooms. I should have summarized it here. I'll try and do that for the next board meeting. But the basic gist is we're maintaining the base amount of attendance that we have. Again, in the spreadsheet you saw on Friday, we're split. Most schools are somewhere between 50-50 or 60-40. The 60 being the hybrid part of it. So if you've got a class of 24 and 60% of that is in hybrid, it means that we've got about maybe 18 kids, 13 kids between the hybrids. So you split that in half, and that's about how many kids are showing up per day in a classroom. So it would be, if it were 18 kids in hybrid, you'd have 9 kids in the Monday, Tuesday, and 9 kids in the Tuesday, Thursday. The one thing that I did see on that spreadsheet that you did see that final column that said no CDL. And I did clarify, those are students and parents who have just ghosted us, who have said they're not returning our phone calls. They're done. And most times it was 1 or 2 students, but I wanted to make sure you knew what that column was. And that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, we'll bring to you on next board meeting more information about the summer programs. And that's, I think, where we're at right now. Questions from the board?
Any questions?
That's Dave, just a comment. That's a lot of, whoops. That's a lot of money to spend in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see how we can pull. Do we have teachers that don't want to work during the summer?
Yes. That was,
good.
I mean, again, as we surveyed them, we found quite a few folks who are interested in providing these opportunities for our kids.
Good.
And then there's also outside organizations, the city. We're trying to connect. I mean, John, do you want to tell them just a little bit about the park idea?
Yeah, it's been really exciting. And Kate, yes, libraries are in. We're with City of Forest Grove and Cornelius. We've already started planning with them for the summer reading program. But the City of Forest Grove has extensive parks. We also have an extensive food service program, meals. So because the pool is closed over the summer, we've asked the new director, Anne, and she just submitted her proposal to us for the summer, opening up summer activities, enrichment activities in the parks. I'm aligning that with Lacey in food service so that we can get kids breakfast and lunch. And we're also trying to coordinate with outside entities. So it's very exciting. The key is going to be, transportation.
Looks like we lost John a little bit. What I'll say is we'll come back and do the details the next board meeting. But I just wanted you to get a feeling for kind of, there's a lot of things rolling, and some of it's going to be us, some of it's going to be other folks too.
Okay.
Dave, I just would like to ask, would Young Audience or Saturday Academy, would they be willing to come into our district and do some enrichment? A lot of times, Saturday Academy, my daughter did it, and one of the things that happened, one of the weather people, she came out to the airport, and so it's community people that follow. But Young Audience, also Eden Acres, the garden and the outreach, and they were taking the Cal kids up into the Tillamook Forest and doing some really creative stuff. So yeah, those would be my suggestions, perhaps.
Yes,
So
yes, and yes.
Yeah, John's already contacted Saturday Academy and they've already agreed. He's still working on all of those other. We've got Centro last summer did a STEM outreach with students, and this year we'll wrap this into our engagement. They'll again run it. That's kind of what we need the most, is we just need other organizations to collaborate with us. So that's exactly what's going on. That short time period, Brad, that's the big problem, because it's like trying to get all of this nailed down so quickly is really challenging.
Dave, just an update real quick. Karen shared the high school staff survey. 17 teachers have, out of 22, already responded that they do want to work this summer. So I think our teachers and staff see what an amazing opportunity is for our kids, and we're overwhelmed with the response. So kudos.
And are other districts doing the same thing? John and Dave? I mean, do they have funds to do this as well? I imagine, right?
Yeah, every district has these funds.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody's scrambling, right? To put.
Narce has a comment, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, my comment was, that's amazing, that funding coming to assist our students, and it's amazing. The question I had is, will our Create students have also an opportunity to receive some of these funds? And if yes, what does that look like?
So it is credit recovery. It has to lead to credit attainment. We got it in writing from Michael Elliott at ODE. We've been working very closely with him. And for instance, it gets a little tricky. 9th graders on track for graduation, others qualify. If they are on track, those students don't qualify for the funding. So bottom line is, but like the WIDS program, since they weren't able to make the wooden box, like the jewelry box in Woods 1, that would qualify as a hands-on learning activity for them to get that. And we can bring them in because that is in a course in study and it goes to their career. So Karen did a great job of writing up that question and we submitted it to him and he had to think about it for a couple of days, but yes. And the good thing is Dave gave me the green light to get started on this. And so we're out front with a lot of our community partners, including Saturday Academy. We're going to be the west side and Lake Oswego is the east side district that will be hosting this summer. So pretty exciting stuff.
Will there be any opportunities for university students to do any internship or practicum during the summer? And if so, let me know. I mean, you probably already know who to connect with here at Pacific University, but just putting in a plug for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thanks very much. All right. The next is it looks like we have 4 action items this evening. The first action item is the superintendent evaluation letter. So the school board recently completed the evaluation of Superintendent Parker. I'm going to read a letter that speaks to that evaluation, and then at the conclusion of that, we'll have a motion to approve and move to approve that. So let me read the letter here. To Superintendent Dave Parker. Just over 1 year ago, in Dave's evaluation for 2019-2020, he was lauded and publicly recognized for guiding the district through the early days of a worldwide pandemic due to COVID-19. What began in the spring of 2020 has continued through the entirety of the 2020-2021 school year. Over the course of this school year, school buildings have been closed to students and staff, open to limited numbers of students and staff, and just recently opened more fully to students and staff. The district has had to be flexible in virtually every aspect. Clear communication has been of paramount importance, and decision-making has had to include all stakeholders in the district and be based on the use of science. Dave has risen to this challenge. He has demonstrated qualities that go to the core of who he is: compassionate, person-centered, flexible, approachable, and an outstanding listener. The board recognizes that the school year, coming to a close soon, will be the most challenging, perhaps, on record. We thank Dave for his outstanding leadership in the 2020-2021 school year. Dave has continued to excel this year in all of the areas having to do with relationships. His work in labor relations, district, and also community relations has been outstanding. This year has required everyone to work together, and Dave seeks common ground with all parties in the best interests of students. We feel that he has also demonstrated his strength in the area of policy and governance. For Dave, ethical leadership is important. He values this, and as a result, he takes action in ways that are consistent with an unwavering ethical compass. Visionary leadership is another strong area for Dave. We have appreciated his degree of vision this year, as he was required to ruminate numerous times on what school would have to look like. We are excited and anticipate that he will put his vision for the district in play in the coming year. We feel that there continues to be some areas of growth opportunity for Dave. These are in overall management of the organization, curriculum and instruction, and facilitating positive change for our historically marginalized students. Outstanding management of the organization would include coordinating all areas so that they are functioning at a high level that ensures the best outcomes for all students. We are not there yet with Dave's with Dave's focus on it, we are sure it will happen. Curriculum and instruction, including instructional leadership, will need to improve to the level that all staff have the resources and clear direction in terms of expectations for instruction in the classroom. And lastly, a focus on our marginalized students will need to occur. Positively impacting this group will take a whole organization effort, targeted resources, and new strategies. We are confident that all of these important areas will improve under Dave's leadership. In closing, the board applauds Dave for his leadership and commitment to the students, staff, and community of the Forest Grove School District. As a result, the board will enter into a dialogue with Superintendent Parker for the extension of his contract. Respectfully submitted, Mark Everett, Board Chair. So that's the summation of the evaluation for Dave Parker this year. And I think the letter speaks for itself. Many positives. Just a great job. A few areas that we were going to target, but just a very challenging, I don't know, maybe 16, 18 months here. It's just been unbelievably challenging. So well done, Dave. I don't know if any other board members, well, I think what's next actually is a motion to approve, and then we can have any comment.
Mark, are we looking for a motion to approve the letter or approve the evaluation?
The evaluation,
right?
Which the letter is a summary of that. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll move that we approve the evaluation,
Yeah.
The summary letter as written.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion or comments before we vote?
This is Narce. I just want to say thank you, Dave. I've had the opportunity to work with you for the last 2 years. Time goes by really fast. So I admire your leadership, and also appreciate you not being defensive or always being very professional when hard topics come up. And I see you trying to find every possible way to address the needs of our students, and also the instruction and the classified staff. So here to work with you in partnership along with the rest of the school district. Felicidades.
I second that.
Yeah, me too. Okay. All right. Well, it's been moved and seconded, so we'll do a roll call vote. I'm a yes. Val?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Narce?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mark. Can I just say just
Yeah.
a couple of things? One is that thanks for your words of support. And while this has been the longest year of my career and probably everybody else's career, there's a lot of positive things that have come out of it. And those positive things are not just what I did, but all the people in the organization who have who I work with and collaborate with. So I really appreciate that. I also want to just highlight the challenges that you laid out for me. I understand those. Improving our outcomes for our historically underserved students. We've got to find some pathways forward on that. So I understand that challenge and accept it. Figuring out what aspects we've learned from this year and what are we going to continue doing going forward. Rejuvenating curriculum and restarting our curriculum cycles, delivering on an instructional vision. These are all challenges that I totally agree with, and agree with your wanting me to do more there. So I understand them and I'm ready to do that. So again, I thank you, and I'm now begins the next year of hard work. So thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Dave. Okay, let's see. The next action item is the 2020-2021 school calendar adjustment. Kevin Noreen is here to speak to that one, I believe.
Yes, good evening, Chair Everett, members of the board. So tonight we bring forth to you two versions of next year's calendar of 2021-22. And so you have had the write-up in the board packet. So we are tonight presenting and recommending that the board approve draft 2. And I will just kind of hit the quick major significant difference between the two versions. So the version 2 adds and moves, not adds, moves a work day from the secondary staff in between the semester break, in between semester 1 and semester 2. It does not make any change to the elementary certified schedule or student schedule. So that schedule is exactly the same in both drafts. But the recommendation of why we're bringing draft 2 is, as was in the write-up there, we did get some feedback last year from the secondary staff who said they could really use an additional work day, and for not at the end of the school year, but in between the 2 semesters. And for those of you that have experience with the secondary and the high school level can understand that. So we wanted to take that into feedback into consideration, and in conversation with the committee and with cabinet, we felt comfortable that made sense to go ahead and make that proposal in the calendar for next year. So, and then it talks about just the ramifications of what that does. Basically, the elementary level would end on the Thursday, June 16th, and the secondary would have their last day of school on Friday, the 17th. So that's how that impacts the calendar, and I'd be happy to take any questions from the board.
So this is, Kevin, I know it's in the write-up here, but it is, like you said, this is, it was, the secondary is really wanting that extra day. If I'm correct, at the end of the first semester, so there's a grade day, and then it looks like on maybe a Friday, and then the Monday is is that right?
Yes, correct. The Monday is a teacher work day.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Okay, and that's what they wanted. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for myself.
Great.
Any other questions of Kevin? Okay, if not, I'll make a motion that we approve draft 2 of the 2021-2022 school calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on that. So I am a yes. Narce?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Val?
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, our next action item is the Neil Armstrong Middle School Exhaust and Controls System purchase. And this is presented by Eileen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight we have presented to you a proposal for the NAM's middle school exhaust fan system upgrade. And what this is it's taking and replacing 7 fans and putting unit variable speed fans on top. And what this will do is it'll increase the air ventilation. It'll allow us to be able to control that air exhaust in the building. It'll impact the whole building, so every classroom within it. We received 2 quotes, one from Commercial Controls for $137,000 and one from Northwest Controls. After reviewing the quotes for apples to apples and making sure that they were in alignment, the recommendation is for the board to award the contract to Commercial Controls for $137,732, and we would use the ESSER funds.
Did you say how much the other company was, Eileen?
Yes, it's 199,820.
Okay, thanks.
And just so Eileen, are they, I mean, it's a pretty big difference, but you said it's apples to apples?
After going through and reviewing the bids, Commercial Controls is the lowest bidder. They have the most experience with our district. They've been in our district for years. And so they know where everything is. It's overall, it's just a lot less work for them to come in and try to figure out how to install these fans and work with our systems that we currently have in place. So.
All right, okay.
So is this airflow and also air conditioned for the building or just airflow?
Just airflow. It's not changing the condition.
Okay.
Or adding air conditioning, sorry.
Okay. And it improves the air exchange rate. Huh? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Eileen? Okay. Is there a motion?
So I will move that we accept the Commercial Controls bid for the work for the DOC controls.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? No, okay. We'll do a roll call vote. So I'm a yes. Kate?
Yes.
Val?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Narcy?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, it looks like you're up again here, Eileen. Okay, DDC controls upgrade. So Eileen.
Thank you, Mark. So the other item that we have for you tonight is upgrading the final DDC controls in the buildings. We have several buildings that have old FX70 control points. And what we're looking at doing is upgrading them to FX80 control points. And it will allow us to expand the monitoring and our availability to control the HVAC in those buildings. It'll increase the air exchange and CO2 levels for monitoring. And the other thing is the FX70s are going to go out of, they won't be manufactured any longer, so they're not going to be supported. It's something that we'll have to do anyway, but with the opportunity of being able to use the ESSER grant funds to improve the airflow and have that access to control it, this would bring all of our buildings up to that FX80.
So Eileen, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say the two quotes that we got for bid was Commercial Controls for $139,600 and Northwest Controls for $150,180. After reviewing the proposals, we would recommend that the board award the contract to Commercial Controls for the $139,600 using the ESSER funds.
Okay. So Eileen, are these literally just control units like on a wall or not on a, I mean, is that what, no? Okay.
No, but Mark is much more versed in this than I am. I will let him answer specifically what this is.
Okay.
All right, Mark and board members, the controls are, they're existing in the buildings currently, and they're outdated in many of the buildings. And so the problem is that the FX70s are no longer going to be supported after July 1st.
Okay.
And so when they break, we don't have a replacement for them. We don't have parts for them. So basically, they're a computer system in the school. They're not a thermostat on the wall.
Okay.
But they're more of a control system that monitors every room, the CO2 level in every area that we have monitors in. It's really complex, but it's nice that the ESSER funds are available to help us bring this up at this time to where it needs to be, so that, you know, Forest Grove School District gets the benefit of being up to date with everyone else. We've spent, from what I've understood since I've been here, we've spent many years kicking the can down the hallway on this, and we're at the end of the hallway. So as bad as the COVID has been, it has helped in many ways as well. So I'm excited for this to happen.
How long will it take for them to install that, do that? Do you know, Mark? I mean,
well, yeah, that's a good one. I've talked to Mark about this. Mark Lissick is the owner of Commercial Controls, and he's got several hundred man hours to do the whole district. So, but he figures by the end of the summer, he should have that, the whole place upgraded. Every school, every building. I mean, in the high school alone, there's 6 of these controllers, and each one needs programmed and all. So it's pretty intense.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there's one question in the chat, which is, are these proposals aligned with providing women and minority contractors an opportunity for this labor? So I think it's the bidding process.
Thank you, Dave. Yes, the bidding process with this state is we publish all of our RFPs online through the DJC, and any vendor or contractor in the state has an opportunity to bid on that. When we go through the evaluation process of those bids that we receive, we do score and award additional points for any business that is certified with this state as women or minority owned and operated.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion for you, Mark, if you're ready.
Yeah.
I move that we use Commercial Controls for the DDC controls upgrade.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Nope. Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. So, Val?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Narcy?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So that motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that concludes the action items for this evening. And we have, looks like one more future action item. And this is policy JFF, educational equity. And this is Osvaldo Garcia Contreras and equity team members, equity team members presenting. So, Osvaldo.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Everett. I will, Oz, if you could, why don't you control this? So if you share your screen, Oz, to the beginning of the presentation, then I'll get us started. I don't know if Oz was ready for that or not. I can share it. I have it up.
Yeah, it's better because I have it, but in the the different laptop that is not connected.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I will hang on one sec.
Yeah. I can't find it quickly though.
I'm on it.
Okay.
I surprised you. Sorry. Okay. Present. Well, again, thank you, Chair Everett. Tonight, we want to present to the board some work that has been happening from really before I even arrived here 3 years ago. Tonight, I have members of the subcommittee from our district equity team to present to you the work we've been working on for the last 2 years. Tonight, those members are Osvaldo Garcia Contreras, Cassie Kenny, Joelle Rickard, and Gwen Torson. Our agenda tonight we're going to start with how did we get here? Why do we need an equity policy? And then we're going to run you through taking action, the structure of the equity policy, our action plan, some important definitions that we have in the policy. So that's our agenda for today. So I want to take just a minute to review the work the district has done and is doing to help you understand how we got to this moment. The Forest Grove School District started its equity journey back in 2008 with United to Understand Racism sessions that they sponsored in the district. And basically every year since then, they've been continuing to work on these issues. As we've talked many times, our district, there's a systemic racism problem, which is we continue to produce the same results year after year. And until we start to make some changes, we're going to continue to see those results. When I arrived in the district in 2018, the district had organized itself into a very flat equity organization, which is every school has its own equity team that's responsible for the monthly equity sessions. These schools come together these teams come together 4 to 5 times a year in a district equity team. The leadership of that district equity team is not me per se, but rather it's administrators and teachers all coming together to talk about the direction that we want to take. Myself and Osvaldo are facilitators of that vision, but certainly we're not the ones determining every move. The district equity team also has subcommittees that are working on different areas. And I'm gonna leave that to Gwen in a second to talk through that. But in particular, we don't have a policy that governs equity. And while much of this work we've already been doing for a long period of time, until we have a policy that has some accountability to it, we're not going to be able to hold ourselves accountable to those things. So I want to turn this over to Gwen now, who's going to talk you through a little bit about, again, the subcommittees that we've developed here around our equity team and how we got to this equity policy. Okay.
Wonderful, thank you. So as Mr. Parker has shared, it is a very much of a collaborative approach across our district. And so what you're looking at here is 5 committees from 2019 to present that have really divided our efforts and our focus to be more effective across the board. And I'll dive into each one of these committees. And yet we come back together and share our work and collaborate. So it's, even though there are 5 committees, we don't work in isolation. We're always cross-referencing and collaborating with one another. So starting on the far left, we have a committee titled Expanding Cultural Toolkits, and that's led by Dr. Rodriguez and Dawn Nelson at the high school. And you can see by looking at the members on this committee, we have representation across levels as well as across buildings, with a total of 10 colleagues and different ways in which we serve our children and our families. This is really a lot of the work that's coming out of Dr. Freiberg and her team, and it's really bringing the learnings right down to the students level in the schools across district. The second committee, Diversifying the Workforce, as well as affinity groups, is led by Ms. Morales, Mr. Noreen, and Mr. Martinez. And this is really doing exactly kind of what the title states, and that's really making sure that we're doing and using the best hiring practices to get our colleagues of color to match our students' demographic, and really having intentionality around that. As well as really doing some work with affinity groups this year, affinity groups for BIPOC colleagues, affinity groups for white colleagues, and really looking to expand that opportunity to be together in affinity groups. The third committee is Equity Professional Development, led by Ms. Graves and Ms. Ione. And this is the learning for the big people to bring it on down to our students. And you can see we have 8 colleagues on this committee, and this committee and the Expanding Toolkits Committee really do a lot of yin yang and working together. The fourth in the green is the Board and Community Development Committee, and that's led by Mr. Parker and myself. And there are 9 of us across, again, levels that have really been working behind the scenes in providing a draft policy. And likewise, here we are tonight. And then the last committee is Student and Family Voice, led by Elena Carter and Miss Kelly. and really making sure that we're out talking to our families and our students, which is the most important, to make sure we hear their voice. And we have 11 colleagues. So in total, we're at about 49 to 50 colleagues across our district that are actively working day in and day out, week in and week out, coming together, as Mr. Parker said, at a minimum of 3 to 4 times a year to do share out and talk about next steps. So now specifically to the Board and Community Development Committee. In 2018 and 19, we met to discuss the need for an equity policy. It was Mr. Parker that said, we don't have an equity policy, and that is a big first step. So in fall of 2019, we came together as a committee and we discussed other districts' equity policies around our area and across the state, just to see what was currently out there in 2019. A few months later, we met then with the district equity team. So again, that whole slide with 49 of our colleagues, to share what we learned as a committee with the entire equity district team to get their input. That same winter, we drafted a version of the policy and then collecting feedback of that entire committee. And we did spend several hours on one of our 3 sessions, really unpacking what we thought would be a good draft for our district and our community. And then here in the spring of 2021, we are ready to share the draft and hopes of finalizing an equity policy and collecting feedback from you, the school board, as well as our community, to continue this amazing and most important work.
Yeah, this policy provides a pathway for action and common language to what the community has already asked for. Mr. Parker, our superintendent, has spent significant hours rolling out his vision for our district and collecting feedback as part of the strategic planning. And in doing so, he has held a number of meetings with the community. What the community has spoken about is the language that we actually are sharing today as part of this equity policy. When you review this policy, you will find 4 important components. It is an educational informational tool. It outlines all the commitments and responsibility. You're gonna find the clear action plan of what we want to accomplish. And then some important definitions that allow not only the board, but also the community at large to really understand the language stated in this policy. So one of the components, a couple of components of this policy is that it defines what equity means for our district. And it encourages shared leadership and collective responsibility. Just like it was stated before, this is not something that one person is going to do. Even our equity committee, even though we are coming together and putting that out there, it needs to be executed by the entire professional community. One of the important things that we need to talk about is that when we define equity, we are saying as a district and as a community that equity does not mean that every child receives the same. Equity means that we are going to provide every child with what they need in order to be successful and meet their potential. It is also important to clarify that although race and ethnicity is absolutely important, it is one of the issues that we need to deal with the most. This policy also addresses other issues such as national origin, language proficiency, socioeconomic status, mobility, sexual orientation, ability level, perceived and identified disability, gender identity, special education services, and lack of placements in advanced learning opportunities.
Okay.
You will also find the commitments and responsibilities, and there are 5 key elements here. It's a data-driven decision-making. We are going to be addressing the accessibility gap. We are going to be eliminating the predictability of outcomes. We have graduation expectations, and we talk about allocation of resources. And let me clarify this a little bit. What we mean by that is that we will be implementing this policy with clear deliverables in mind, and with laser focus on chosen non-negotiables. So this is something that is going to be a part of next steps. Our superintendent will talk about it, but it's important to front load right now. There are a number of educational gaps. We can talk about achievement, opportunity, accessibility. They all need to be addressed, but especially the accessibility gap, because it could feed, not addressing that, the worthiness gap, which is that internalized belief that students develop when they believe that oppression becomes part of the status quo and they just need to go with it. Next.
Good evening, buenas noches. This is our action plan. This is how we will see this policy at work in our schools. We will provide equitable access to culturally responsive and relevant curriculum. We'll implement social and emotional learning. Our district is quite cutting edge in integrating an equity lens with our SEL curriculum. This is key because if this is not done, SEL can actually do more harm than good to students from historically oppressed groups. We will examine policies, programs, and professional development with an equity lens. We will commit to diversifying the school personnel to enhance equitable representation. For example, we have outstanding instructional assistants who would make amazing teachers. Many of our instructional assistants are bilingual and bicultural. Our graduates of Forest Grove School District want to remain in our community and reflect our student population. So the district is working on providing pathways so they can become teachers and serve our students in a way that no one else could. We will ensure that our schools are safe, and we commit to providing an identity-safe environment for all students. We embrace and support both multiculturalism and bilingual education, and we will include the voices of our community, especially students and parents. An example of this is how we are differentiating how we connect with families this year. We have learned that Zoom can eliminate barriers some families face when attending school or district meetings. One does not have to worry about transportation or childcare to attend a Zoom parent meeting. So we see a future with a blend of in-person and virtual meetings to allow for more families to participate and have their voices heard.
So our committee had a lot of conversations around the fact that language is important, words and their meaning, they're important. So we focused on the development of definitions in the equity policy to highlight the importance that we not only need to have a shared language and understanding internally within our team and our district, but also that this policy serves as a means to share those ideas and definitions with community members and start that conversation. Several of the words that are defined in this policy are listed on the slide here. To generate definitions, we looked into well-respected resources such as the CASTLE for the Center for Advancement in Social and Emotional Learning for the CEL definition. And we looked towards the Trevor Project for the gender identity definition, as well as looked to resources within our own district, including our Director of Student Services for our medical and social definitions of disability. Our hope is that including definitions in the policy will help to increase shared understanding and clarity, as well as enrich conversations around the policy.
So next steps for us, which is this policy has been a long time coming. It's here for first reading tonight. We'll take through after, we'll take and push this out through our principals to present out to all staff to look at. This will come back in front of you in a future board meeting. We're looking for approval of this policy. At that point, we'll go in and start creating the AR, the administrative rule. How are we going to do this? The second part is really what are the potential deliverables? Like, how will we measure whether or not we're meeting this policy? We'll develop what those measurables are. We'll develop what data needs to be continued. I know there was a conversation both with the All Students Belong policy that was passed that has a bias complaint procedure, but I think there's more in the school district that we need to pull out to be able to report because there's student discipline that also has some of these elements, and not everybody's going to make out a complaint form. So we need to develop what those deliverables look like. And then development and growth of the achievement goals. Like, again, part of this is around our kids achieving their student achievement. So we need to build into this kind of what we're expecting from that. You've got a link, you've got the policy and the procedure there, and I think we're ready for like questions on this first reading or comments.
Just have just a comment about the deliverables, Dave.
Yep.
I mean, have there been discussions about the systems that are going to need to be in place to actually quantify those deliverables? And then once we have those systems in place, are there discussions about, what's our baseline right now? From 2008 to right now, what are our baseline scores right now in terms of where, and then what are our goals going to be once we know where we are right now?
So most of the elements of this already exist somewhere in the system, which is we're already assessing, we're already taking student data. I mean, I'm thinking in terms of student behavior, attendance, and again, the development of our MTSS system. All of these things are there. What we haven't had so far is really the to put it together into a system and say, we're going to report on these things at this time. It was funny because in cabinet today, Cassie was there to present on Panorama, which is the software that we have that most of this data is going into and that we're using in our meetings around kids. But again, I think there's some really good ways for us to utilize that to produce what you're looking for as a board, because you want to know, is this policy working and are we improving? So that's exactly what we've got to put together. I don't think we need tons of new systems. I think we've got to align them and figure out how they're going to report to us.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. I think that there are a number of data points that already exist within the organization. We can go all the way from restorative justice and discipline to attendance to graduation requirements. I think that what we need to do is get together as a community, as a professional community, and kind of agree on the focal points and then be aligned on them so that everyone in every school, we are actually paying attention to those same focal points and collecting the same data systematically and systemically.
I think Narce had a comment.
And thank you for sharing this information, Osvaldo, Joel, Cassie, and let me see. There's one more person. I don't want to, and Gwen. Yeah, my comment is, so it was actually the data, but that's been answered. The professional development, it was talked about, there was all the little pillars, and then there was the professional development and the toolkits. So what is has there been a conversation about the funding and the investment that's going to be dedicated to the work that will go into the equity policy? Because it appears that there's already some initiatives, and then there will probably be some new initiatives, and all that possibly will have dollar amounts. I mean, I probably have a premature question, but I'm just curious about it. And then two, is there, it's the HR embedded in any of those particular boxes? I didn't see HR representation in any of the boxes for the hiring or professional development. And what role will HR have in particular for hiring future teachers that already come at least prepared with some of this thinking of, having done their own work with implicit bias and all of those things that sometimes prevent us doing the work that needs to be done.
So I'm going to start with the HR because actually Kevin and HR are very embedded into multiple of those pieces. And the work that we're currently doing to try and diversify through grants, and there's a lot of things happening in Washington County around this. And Kevin's got us in 4 or 5 different programs. I was just meeting today with Kevin to talk about a new program where if you have you're in our organization, you're working, and you have a master's degree, but maybe not a teacher's certificate, they're now working on an alternative pathway to administrative license. When you don't come from the typical, you teach, then you become, assistant principal. And so there's a lot of work being done right now, and Kevin is knee deep in Washington County on that. So I feel really good about the role of HR in this. The funding of this is interesting, Narce. I had it built into my budget, the funding around running the cultural toolkits and pulling the meeting of the district equity team. That money in next year's budget gets moved to Osvaldo because he, as the facilitator of this group, that's where the money needs to sit. But one of the really interesting things here, and I'm looking kind of at Cassie around this, is we really see our MTSS work as being equity work. All of the things that we're working on fit together. And so we've got funding in multiple places to continue to push on the MTSS work. And we're really working hard here to not make 3 new systems, but make one system and then run it really well. Cassie, I don't know if you have something you want to add in there.
Sure. I was actually just meeting with Elena Carter, our district literacy coordinator today, discussing MTSS. Seems that's what we do a lot lately. And we were coming up with a visual for a meeting we have later this week with Dave and some other district leaders. And we're having a really good conversation about equity it's not a piece of multi-tiered systems of support. It's the umbrella under which all of multi-tiered systems of support sits. And it's a lens through which we need to look at everything we're providing in district. I think that goes for our tier 1 supports that we're providing with our instructional coaches and ensuring that equity is a piece of everything that we're doing and that we're collaborating between different departments towards the goal of equity. I think that it goes all the way up to maybe our tier 3 more targeted mental health supports that we're providing for students and that we're referring out and making sure that we are referring out to culturally appropriate mental health services. So I don't think MTSS is just a part, or equity is a part of MTSS. I think it needs to be embedded into everything that we're doing.
We are also having conversations about curriculum and instruction and how that needs to be assessed through the equity lens. What instruction should look like, addressing, culturally responsive teaching, the culturally responsive curriculum, and all of those effective teaching strategies and high leverage practices that illuminate that. So we're looking at that in a number of, at a number of different levels. And I appreciate Cassie talking about the mental health component, but I also had personal conversations with Elena about how to implement this in the classroom. What are the effective teaching strategies that need to be implemented, and what the DNA of the Forest Grove lesson plan should look like. And by the way, Narce, the superintendent was absolutely right. If you go to slide number 4, second column, the diversifying workforce and affinity groups has our HR director right there as one of the leads.
Thank you. I probably missed that tiny writing. And then just one more question, and it might have been also embedded in the slides that you shared, and I'm sorry if I missed it. Will current policies in general be evaluated with an equity lens?
Yeah, so the third in the actual policy, we didn't go over each of the bullets. We kind of laid them out there, but in the third bullet under the kind of deliverables in the policy, it basically says the district shall review existing policies, programs, and professional development for promotion of educational equity. So yes, it's kind of built into the policy, and then it's we're accountable to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Narsa, for all those questions.
Yep.
Other questions? Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
So that comes back, Dave, just to reiterate, on the 24th.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the plan right now, would be to bring it back for second reading and then hopefully approval.
Yep. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for that. Okay. I think we're down to, let's see where we at here. Future action items. The second one is future board items or board discussion. I'll just mention once again I guess on May 19th, the economic forecast comes out. And once that comes out on May 19th, the legislature is going to be really grinding away on the final budget numbers for, well, for everything, but for schools as well. And so, you know, the proposed from Ways and Means was 9.1, and many districts are pushing for 9.6. And there's a lot of discussion with OSBA about, from different districts about what a 9.1 would do for them. And there's quite a few budget cuts, teaching cuts, days cuts, and that kind of stuff. So, so I would just say, you know, if you're getting the OSBA emails, folks, just take a look at them. And it's a great time to let legislators know that you support a 9.6 budget for schools. It's gonna ramp up here between now and the end of June, and that's when the budget's going to be set. So if you get that coming across your computer and in your email, take a look at it. And sometimes they make it very easy to respond to your legislators, and don't hesitate to do that to support adequate funding for schools. So, so that's my plug on the future items or board discussion. Any other things that folks want to mention here?
I would just say I've actually been in communication with our legislators. I'm happy to give you their contact information.
Yeah, okay.
Because we do need to let them know that they need to fund the general fund at current service level. You can't overfund the grants and then underfund the current service level. It doesn't make any sense. So
yeah, you're exactly right. I think there is a feeling that there's so much grant money, just like you spoke, Dave,
right.
So much grant money that schools are fine, you know, but that's targeted money that is targeted in certain areas, and it doesn't fund the things that oftentimes districts need day to day. So, anyways, all right, let's see. We've got in the information section, we've got an enrollment report in the packet, a finance report, and a healthy and safe schools plan. That's also in tonight's board packet for review. And I think with that, if there are no comments, I think let's see, what time is it? 6:50, 6:55. I think we will adjourn at 6:55. So meeting's adjourned. So thanks.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you.